Hey there. Tonight, you are the sheriff of a small, sunburned town somewhere in the Wild West. No one remembers your name, but they all know your shadow. You walk dusty streets not for justice, but because someone has to. You don't chase glory. You barely sleep. You keep the quiet from falling apart. This isn't the Wild West of stories. It's the one that smells like sweat, gunpowder, and old wood. And for one long day, it's yours. So settle in, let it unfold hour by hour, and answer the only question that matters. Would you last a single day as the sheriff in the Wild West? It's sometime around 1880. Maybe later, maybe earlier. Time doesn't move the same out here. There's no railroad stop, no official record, no dates worth carving into stone. Just a place, too dry for a river, too flat for a fort, and too small for anyone important to remember. A dirt street runs crooked between weather-beaten buildings, half of them leaning the wrong way. The saloon's shutter hangs by one hinge. The church bell hasn't rung in 3 years. It's not that nothing happens here. It's that nothing good ever stays. You're the sheriff, not by election, not by appointment, but because the last man to wear the badge bled out in the mud behind the general store, and no one else stepped forward. The office is yours now. So is the cot. So is the silence. You wake up to barking. Not rest, not peace, just the sharp, echoing sound of dogs tearing into morning like it wronged them. The cot groans beneath you as you shift. You don't sit up right away. You just listen. The sound isn't panic, not yet. But it's not normal either. Dogs bark for 2 reasons out here. Either something's alive that shouldn't be, or something's already dead. The air in the office is thick, warmer than it should be. One window's cracked open, but the breeze never makes it inside. You slept in your boots again. You always do, and no time to lace them when a man's already screaming. You reach for the tin badge hanging from the nail by the desk. You don't pin it on, you just hold it for a second, like checking whether it still weighs the same. It does. You toss it onto the table and stand. The floorboards complain under your feet. Dust rises, then settles back without protest. The dogs are closer now, maybe behind the stables, maybe under someone's porch, maybe chasing shadows, like they often do. Still, you grab your gun. You don't holster it. Just carry it. There's something about the morning that always feels wrong before you even see it. The way the sun spills over the rooftops like it's apologizing for being late. The way the sky is too bright and too quiet, like it knows something you don't. You step outside. The light stings your eyes. It always does. The street is mostly empty. A few doors hang half open. Curtains twitch. No one waves. No one says good morning. That's the first rule out here. Don't invite the day to notice you. You cross the street slowly, eyes sweeping rooftops, alleyways, windows, not looking for anyone in particular, just making sure the world hasn't shifted in the night. It often does. You pass the blacksmith shop, cold. The schoolhouse, still shut. The saloon, quiet for now. You follow the barking to its source. 3 mutts circling something in the dirt near the edge of town. Not attacking. Just keeping distance and making noise. You approach, gun low. It's a blanket. Torn, stained, half buried under straw and soot. Something's wrapped inside. You don't need to look to know it's human. You've seen enough outlines like that. Curled inward, knees drawn up, one arm outside the fabric like they reached for something too late. The dogs fall silent as you stop. They don't growl, don't run, just stare. You kneel slowly, careful not to stir dust. You pull the edge of the blanket back. A face. Male. Early 20s. Skin too pale for mourning. Eyes open but not seeing. No blood. No visible wound. No name in your memory to go with him. You sigh. Not out of sadness, but routine. You've seen 6 bodies like this in 2 months. All different. All the same. No one asks where they came from. No one asks where they go. You cover him back up, stand, turn, walk away. You'll tell the undertaker later, or maybe not. He'll find out eventually. Everyone does, just not from you. You've learned it's better that way. You head back to your office. The dogs don't follow. The barking doesn't start again. Morning has begun, and already it wants you tired. You walk back to the office slowly. The sun's already pushing over the warped rooftops, casting uneven gold across dry boards and rusted nails. The town is waking up, but not all at once, like it's not quite sure it wants to. You pass the saloon again. The door is open now, but no one's stepped out. Inside, someone coughs, deep and ragged, like they're spitting out dust and time. You don't stop. You just note it. Everything you see, you store away. The crooked sign swaying above the tailor's shop. A horse tied without a saddle. Barefoot tracks running along the edge of the street. Any of it could mean nothing. Any of it could mean too much. You reach the office. The door creaks just like it did yesterday. A draft chases loose paper across the floor. There's a tin cup on the desk, half full of yesterday's coffee. You take a sip, bitter, flat. You don't finish it. Breakfast isn't a comfort here. It's just a break in the pattern. You open the cupboard. There's a crust of bread, a strip of dry meat, and 1 egg. You crack the egg. It splits crooked, half of it spilling onto the stove instead of the pan. You don't curse. You don't even blink. You light the fire with one hand. The other holds your gun, not holstered, not polished, just resting in your lap like part of your body. You don't think about it. It's not for show. It's survival. One morning, just once, you fried an egg without it, and you didn't eat again for 3 days. You sit at the table watching the white of the egg curl and stiffen on hot metal. The smell isn't good, but it's familiar. You bite off a chunk of bread, chew slowly. Your eyes never leave the door. It's not locked. Nothing here is locked. Only people with something to lose bother locking doors. You chew, you hear footsteps. Then you realize it's only memory. Boots on wood, echoes of people who aren't here anymore. You don't say their names. You stopped doing that years ago. Speak them out loud, and they start showing up in dreams. You reach for the egg with your bare hand. It burns, but not enough to matter. You sit back down, lay the revolver closer to your plate. Eat fast, not for taste, just to move through it. Chewing keeps your mouth busy. Otherwise, the silence starts crawling up your teeth. The clock on the wall hasn't worked in weeks, maybe months. Nobody winds it. Time doesn't run here. It circles. People say that if you listen close enough, you can hear the train in the morning, but you never have. All you hear are dogs, coughing, boards shifting in the wind. It's enough. Too much, really. The plate is empty. Your mouth is dry. You pick up the same tin cup and take another sip. Still bitter. Still cold. Still awful. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve. Not because it's polite, just because it's faster. The revolver is still in your lap. You don't put it away. Not today. But really, there haven't been any safe days for a while now. You tell yourself maybe tomorrow will be quiet. Maybe someone else will handle the noise. Maybe the saloon will host a man who knows how to speak without shouting. But you already know the answer. So the revolver stays where it is. Not as a threat, not as a comfort, just as a habit that keeps you alive. You stand. Your boots hit the floor with a hollow thud. You leave the plate where it is. The cup, too. It's not worth cleaning. And if you don't come back, someone else will deal with it, or not. Out here, most things are left where they fall. You rise from the chair slowly, your body groaning in protest. There's no rush. Nothing out there is going anywhere. The revolver stays in your hand, a quiet weight you no longer question. You cross the room toward the back door, the one that leads to the cell. It's not much of a jail, just a narrow room with a barred door and a cot built from warped timber. No lock worth trusting, no space to pace. The air smells of old sweat and iron. You reach for the bolt, slide it back. The door creaks, same as always. Inside, there's no movement, no noise. The prisoner isn't sleeping. You can tell before you step through. There's a stillness that sleep never has. You pause in the doorway and let your eyes adjust. The light is thin, leaking through a crack in the wall, landing right on the unmoving shape curled on the cot. You step in slowly, careful not to disturb the quiet. He's lying on his side, back to the wall, one arm hanging down. His fingers almost touch the floor. His shirt is soaked through, not with blood, but sweat, and maybe worse. You crouch near the bars and watch for the rise of his chest. Nothing. You already know, but you still wait. Just in case. You reach out, press your knuckles to his neck. Cold. Not stiff yet, but getting there. You sit back on your heels and exhale. He was young, or at least younger than you. You don't remember his name. Might not have ever known it. He came in 2 nights ago, drunk, loud, swinging at a man twice his size in the saloon. Took 3 of you to drag him out, 1 to hold his legs. He screamed for hours. Then he stopped. Last night he didn't ask for food. You figured that meant he'd settled down. Now it means something else. You stand and look around the room as if there might be something worth seeing. There isn't. Just piss on the floor, a dent in the wall where someone's boot once struck in frustration, and a pile of rags in the corner. You make a note to burn them later. You reach for the door and pull it shut behind you. You don't lock it. What's the point? He won't be walking out. You return to the main room. The light has shifted, grown harder. The dust in the air looks like ash. You sit again, place the revolver on the desk, and run your fingers through your hair. It's still early. Too early for the undertaker. He opens around 9, if he opens at all. Last week he didn't. You glance at the ledger on the corner of your desk, still open to the page from yesterday. You could write his name in. Unidentified male, found dead in custody. But it doesn't matter. There's no one to ask after him. No one coming to collect. You lean back in your chair and close your eyes, just for a moment. The creak of the wood behind your neck sounds like footsteps, and your hand twitches toward the gun again before you remind yourself there's no one there. You open your eyes. The cell is still quiet, still waiting. You should cover him. That's what you tell yourself. But you don't move. Instead, you watch the shadows crawl along the far wall, climbing slowly with the sun. In a few hours, the smell will start. In a few more, the flies will come. But not yet. Not right now. You have time. Not for fixing it. Not for making it right. Just time to sit and wait and breathe. One more dead man. One more silent room. You don't feel guilt. That went away months ago. You just feel tired. And you know, this is only the beginning of the day. You step out of the office with the weight of the door dragging behind you. The street is barely lit, the morning sun still low enough to cast everything in soft gold haze. A cat darts across the boards, startled by nothing. You pause, look both ways down the main road, and see what you always see: dust, warped wood, and silence. The saloon's swinging doors are closed now, but the scent of smoke and stale liquor still clings to the air. You hear the wind before you feel it, brushing through empty spaces between buildings, lifting dry dirt into the morning light. You walk down the side alley behind the jailhouse, where the ground slopes toward the stable. Your boots press into old hoofprints, into the soft impressions of forgotten mornings, just like this one. Inside, your horse waits half asleep, ears flicking at the buzz of a single fly. She doesn't whinny or shuffle. She's done this routine too many times. You throw the saddle over her back and tighten the cinch like you've done 1,000 mornings before. The leather creaks. Your body protests as you pull yourself up. There's a quiet thump as your boots find the stirrups. The street doesn't react. No one does. The town is still asleep. Curtains drawn, windows fogged with the weight of old dreams. Somewhere, behind one of those warped walls, a child coughs. Somewhere else, a floorboard creaks beneath the foot of someone who isn't sure if they should get up yet. But out here, in the open, there's nothing but you and the slow breath of your horse. She shifts once under you, then settles. You hold the reins loose. You don't ride fast, just enough to move. The saddle groans beneath your weight. The sound is familiar, steady, like a song you don't remember learning. The buildings pass by slowly, each one as tired as the last. General store, blacksmith's forge, empty schoolhouse with its paint peeling away in long white strips. A sign still sways in front of the barber's shop, half snapped, but no one's fixed it. You nod at no one and ride on. Your eyes scan everything: the windows, the alleys, the rooftops. You don't expect trouble, but that's the point. Trouble never announces itself. It waits. It leans. You keep one hand near your side, not gripping the revolver, but knowing where it is. You pass by the church, small and sun-bleached, its bell long since rusted in place. No one prays there anymore. Maybe no one ever did. The weeds are growing up through the front steps, like even the ground is giving up. A dog watches you from the shade beneath a wagon. You don't meet its eyes. You don't meet anyone's eyes. Not because you're afraid, but because you're expected not to. Sheriff doesn't look. He sees. That's what someone once said. You didn't argue then. You wouldn't now. You guide the horse down the side road behind the mill, where the fence has collapsed and no one's put it back up. There's a well here, dry, with a rope that frays more each season. You check it anyway. You always do. You circle back toward the main street, slow and silent, as the light sharpens around the edges of roofs. You don't hear voices yet. No footsteps. Just the breathing of your horse, the creak of saddle leather, and the occasional call of a distant crow. You make another pass, not because there's reason to, but because there's no reason not to. This is your job, after all. Ride before they rise. See before they speak. Most days, nothing happens. And still, you ride. You stop in front of the undertaker's shop. Door closed, shutters latched. You wonder if he knows there's work waiting for him. You don't knock. He'll find out soon enough. You keep riding, letting the morning stretch thin around you. The town is beginning to stir, but only barely. A curtain twitches. A broom scratches wood somewhere down the block. But no one steps outside. Not yet. Not while you're visible. They wait for you to pass. You keep your eyes forward. Your legs ache already. The sun is still rising, and the day hasn't even started. The sound reaches you before you see anything. A sharp, cracking echo that rolls over the rooftops like thunder made of splinters. One shot, maybe two. You don't flinch. You don't even reach for your gun yet. The horse shifts beneath you, but you steady her with a quiet pull of the reins. The noise came from the crossroads, same as it always does. That patch of dirt between the saloon, the livery, and the street with no name. The place where men go when they've run out of people willing to listen. You guide the horse forward without hurry. There's no need. He'll still be there. They always are. And if he's not, he'll be somewhere nearby, shouting at ghosts or at the ground. Another man with whiskey in his blood and iron in his hand, convinced that firing into the air makes him less small. The town doesn't react. No doors slam, no shutters close. No one runs. They've heard it before. They'll hear it again. You turn the corner, and there he is, standing right in the center of the junction, legs spread wide for balance, one arm held straight above his head, revolver pointed skyward. His hat is gone, his shirt open, and his mouth is moving faster than his brain. He's not aiming at anything, not yet. But the barrel's spinning in lazy circles as he rants to no one. You recognize him vaguely. He works, or used to work, for the farrier, or maybe the grain mill. His name might be Thomas, or Clayton. It doesn't matter. Today he's just another drunk with a gun. You bring your horse to a stop. Not close, just close enough. He sees you and straightens a little, lifting his chin like it means something. "Sheriff," he yells, voice already hoarse. "I got every right." You don't answer. Not yet. You stay in the saddle, still, steady. Let the silence grow long enough to make him uncomfortable. Let the weight of your eyes do the speaking. He lowers the gun a little, but not all the way. Still wagging it around, like a child who's never been hit. You dismount slowly, 1 foot at a time, careful not to make sudden moves. Not because you're scared, because you've seen how fast a man can die when no one means it. Your boots hit the dirt. You leave the reins loose. The horse knows better than to run. You take one step, then another. Your own revolver stays at your side, not drawn, not raised. He blinks. His mouth twitches. You can see it now. the doubt sinking in, the hangover chasing the bravado. "Just making noise," he mutters, softer. "Ain't hurting nobody." You keep walking. 10 feet, 8, 5, close enough to smell the sour liquor on his breath. You stop. He stares at you, eyes rimmed red, lips tight. The gun droops. You hold out your hand, palm up, say nothing. After a pause, a long one, he puts it in your hand, not gently, not respectfully, just gives it up, like he's tired of holding it. You nod once, turn, walk away. No cuffs, no words, no threats, just done. You slide the revolver into your belt and mount back up. He doesn't follow, doesn't speak, just stands there, swaying slightly, watching the dust settle around his boots. Someone will help him home. Or not. Maybe he'll sleep in the dirt until the sun burns it out of him. You don't look back. You ride on, past the saloon, where no one's even come outside. A woman sweeps the step with slow, bored motions, not even glancing in your direction. This isn't an event. It's routine, like sweeping or feeding chickens. You hear a door creak behind you, hear someone spit into the dust. Another drunk with a gun. Nothing changed. Nothing solved. You ride slower now. The air's getting warmer, the day heavier. But you know there'll be more. Before noon. Before evening. Maybe not with bullets. Maybe with fists or tears or knives. But they'll come. You keep riding anyway. Because someone has to. Because it's you. You've barely made it 3 blocks from the last incident when you see her. Standing right where she always does, just outside the fence that barely holds itself upright. Hands on her hips, bonnet pulled low over her brow like it's meant to deflect the sun and the world all at once. Her name is Mrs. Callahan, though everyone just calls her Ma. You don't remember ever seeing her smile, or sit, or speak above a mutter. But she's always here, waiting. And today, like so many others, she's got a complaint. You slow the horse to a stop and tip your head. She wastes no time. "One of my hens is gone," she says, voice scratchy as dry paper. "Second time this week. Ain't no mistake." You nod. Not because you believe her. Not yet. But because it's the only response that keeps things moving. You dismount. The saddle creaks, and dust lifts around your boots as you step to the gate. She doesn't open it for you. She never does. You push it yourself, feeling it stick where the hinge has warped from rain that never came. The yard is the same as always. Patches of earth worn bare by time and chickens. A lopsided coop made of scrap wood, and a rusted water pump that wheezes more than it works. She points to the coop, like the evidence is obvious. "Counted 'em twice this mornin'. Was 8, now 7. Not no fox, neither. Fox wouldn't have left the gate open." You crouch beside the coop, look it over. The latch hangs loose, but it's not broken. Could be wind. Could be her memory. Could be a kid with nothing better to do. You glance at the ground. No tracks worth following. Just dried prints overlapping each other like old arguments. One of the hens clucks at you, offended by your presence. You stand. "I'll make a note," you say. She scowls. "Note won't bring back my breakfast." You pull the small notebook from your coat pocket, the one already stained and softened at the corners. You write it down anyway. 1 chicken, reported missing, 7:00 a.m. No name. No suspect. No hope of follow-up. It's a formality, like writing down the weather. but she watches you do it. That's the part that matters. You put the pencil back, close the notebook with one hand, and nod again. Anything else go missing? You ask, already knowing the answer. No, she says. Not yet. She looks past you now, toward the street, toward the empty sky above the rooftops. But it ain't just chickens going. Feels like things keep slipping. You don't reply. You could ask what she means, but it won't help. She's old. She's always known more than she says, and most of what she knows, you wouldn't want written down. She turns and walks toward her porch without another word. You step out through the gate and let it drag closed behind you. You remount slowly, one boot at a time, spine bending like the hinge on her gate. The horse snorts, impatient. You guide her back to the main road. The street's a little busier now. A few people sweeping, a child chasing a stick, someone dragging a crate across a warped porch. But the town still feels hollow, like something left the shell behind and no one noticed. You glance down at the notebook again. The words are already smudged, the line crooked. You wonder what the book would look like if anyone ever read it. Pages of missing chickens, drunken rants, quiet deaths in jail cells. No laws broken, just lives slowly folding in on themselves. You slide it back into your pocket. The revolver is still at your side. The sun is higher now. The wind is dry and restless. Somewhere behind you, a chicken squawks sharply, maybe startled, maybe defiant. You don't turn around. You just keep riding. You've done your duty, or at least what passes for it around here. You keep riding even though there's nowhere specific to go. That's how most of your days work. Not answering a call, just making sure no one forgets you're still out here. The town looks calm, but that doesn't mean much. Trouble doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it waits in a doorway. Sometimes it waits in someone's chest, growing heavy until they can't hold it anymore. You pass the tailor's shop, the windows fogged and streaked, mannequins in the corner sagging like tired men. Beside it, a boy leans against a barrel, whittling at nothing. He doesn't look up, you move on. No one waves. No one smiles. But they see you. That's what matters. Not that they know your name or believe in your badge, just that they see you ride by. That they remember what happens if they don't keep their heads down. You're not a judge. You're not even a sheriff in the way the word used to mean something. You're the shape of what might happen if someone steps too far. The badge doesn't mean much out here. Tin stamped with a star, pinned to a coat that hasn't been cleaned in weeks. There's no court, no jury, no lawyers scribbling in ledgers. There's just you, and a few other men with guns and names no one wants to say too loudly. When something breaks, you don't fix it. You contain it. You lean on doors until they stay closed. You say just enough to remind them that silence is safer than questions. The rules are paper, but your revolver is iron. That's what they respect. Not justice, not fairness. Just weight. Just threat. Once, months ago, a man came into town waving official documents. Said he was sent from the capital. Spoke about reform, structure, systems. 2 days later, he was gone. Left at dawn without saying goodbye. Didn't even finish his breakfast. You weren't proud of that. But you understood it. He brought words. You brought pause. Only one of those gets remembered when someone reaches for a bottle or a blade. You dismount and tie your horse near the post office, though it hasn't handled real mail in years. Inside, the man who runs it mostly just naps and listens through walls. He gives you a nod, nothing more. You walk the length of the street on foot now, slower, letting your boots send a message. Wood on wood, step after step. You pass faces in windows. No curtains move, but you know they're watching. People learn not to make eye contact, but their eyes never leave you. You're a shadow with a badge, not because you've earned it, but because there's no one else. You remember once, long ago, trying to talk to a boy about right and wrong. Tried to explain what law meant. He looked at you like you'd started speaking another language. Now that same boy is nearly grown, and he keeps his mouth shut, his boots clean, and his anger tucked behind his teeth. That's what passes for order here. Not peace, not justice, just the absence of explosion. You pause near the well, where the wood is splintering, and the bucket's been missing for weeks. The ground around it is cracked and tired. You lean against the post for a moment, scanning the roofs. No smoke from the chimneys yet. No music. No children laughing. Everything's quiet. The kind of quiet that can crack like ice if someone steps too fast. You know they don't trust you. You know they don't like you. That's not your job. Your job is to be visible when someone thinks about doing something stupid. Your job is to make them hesitate. And sometimes, that's enough. Sometimes a man sets down the bottle. Sometimes he walks away from the knife. Not because he believes in law, just because he saw you yesterday, standing still on the corner, and it reminded him what comes next. You press your hand to the revolver on your hip. Still there, still cold. You turn, walk back to your horse, and mount up without a word. The street watches you go, but never blinks. You ride past the edge of the blacksmith's lot, where the dirt is darker from years of ash, and that's where you see them. 3 boys, maybe 9 or 10, crouched behind a stack of old barrels, sticks in their hands, hats too big for their heads. One of them points his gun at you, mouth forming the shape of a shot, tongue clicking against his teeth. Another whispers something and ducks lower. They think you don't see them. But of course you do. You always do. You keep riding, slow and deliberate, your face fixed in the same dull stare you've worn since before they were born. Behind you, a burst of laughter breaks out, quick, sharp, then swallowed. Their game has rules, and one of them is not getting caught watching the sheriff. You don't turn your head. You don't give them a reason to think you care. But it stays with you. The shape of them, the imitation, the fantasy of it. They think you're something worth becoming. You remember being that age, maybe not exactly. The memory's fuzzy, but the shape is there. A man on a horse, riding slow, revolver low on his hip, eyes hard enough to stop a dog from barking. You looked up at him the way these boys look at you now, not with fear, with hope. You thought power looked like that. You thought being the one people noticed meant something, that it earned you a place, made the world a little more yours. No one told you what came with it. No one mentioned the nights where the silence presses on your chest so heavy you wonder if you're still breathing. No one warned you how many names you'd forget, how many faces you'd bury, how often you'd smell blood in your own dreams. They didn't explain the weight of waking up and knowing the next mistake in town might have to die, looking you in the eye. They didn't say that justice, out here, is just the word you whisper when no one's left to argue. The boys reappear at the next alley, darting between buildings, staging some imaginary shootout with enemies that only exist in the dust. One of them rolls to the ground, clutching his chest, then leaps up again, laughing, unshot, untouched, immune. They chase each other with abandon, with joy. And when they see you again, standing beside the old well checking the roofline for movement, they freeze. One raises his hand in a slow, awkward salute. You don't return it, not because you're cruel, but because you know what it would mean to them. They'd tell the others. They'd believe it meant something, that you approved, that they were on the path. But you don't want that. Not for them, not for anyone. You want them to forget you, to grow out of this town and into some place where the men with badges don't keep one eye on the undertaker's porch. But they won't. Most of them won't leave. Most will end up as one of the names you scrawl in a notebook you never reread. You turn away. Mount your horse again. Let the reins go slack as she begins her slow, familiar walk toward the edge of town. You don't look back. You know they're still there. Watching. Learning. Practicing how to stand, how to stare, how to carry their weight like it's earned. You think of all the boys who've watched you over the years. How many turned out like you? How many tried and didn't survive long enough to know better? You hate it. Not because they watch, but because you remember watching too. Because you remember what it felt like to believe a man could be strong just by standing still in the street. And because, somehow, even now, part of you still wants to believe it was ever true. You ride on, your shadow stretching behind you, long and slow, and somewhere down the road, a stick clicks against a wooden post, and a boy practices drawing faster. The saloon comes into view as you round the next corner, and right away, you know something's wrong. It doesn't announce itself, not with shouting, not with broken glass or gunfire, but in the opposite. Quiet. Stillness. The kind that seeps through windows and under doors, wrapping around the building like a warning. Normally, by this time of morning, the place hums. Laughter. Slurred arguments. A piano key or two, out of tune but defiant. Boots scraping the floor, cards slapping the table. A voice raised too loud in a joke no one asked to hear. But not today. The shutters are half lowered, casting shadows across the warped porch. One swing door is ajar, just barely. Enough to catch your attention, but not enough to show what's inside. You pull your horse to a stop across the street, just out of view. You wait. 10 seconds. 20. Nothing moves. No sound. You dismount. Slow. No rush, but alert. You let the reins drop and cross the road like a man stepping into water. He knows is too cold. You place one boot on the edge of the saloon's porch and pause. Feel the give in the boards. Hear the groan beneath your weight. Still, no one inside calls out. No bark of laughter. No clink of bottles. You step up, past the chair that's usually occupied by a man too drunk to finish last night. Empty now. You lean your shoulder to the door and push it just enough to slip through. Inside, your eyes adjust quick. The room is dim, but not dark, and the air, it's wrong. Stale, heavy, like someone tried to hold their breath too long. There are people here, 4, maybe 5, sitting at tables or leaning against the bar. But no one is speaking. No one is drinking. They look at you, then away. Heads turn just slightly. One man lowers his eyes to the floor. The bartender, a man who never stops wiping glasses even when they're clean, just stands frozen, rag in hand, unmoving. You don't need to see the rest. You've seen this before. Something's coming. You walk slowly through the room, eyes scanning every corner. The mirror behind the bar is cracked. A fresh line, you're sure. A glass sits tipped near the edge of a table, contents spilled and sticky. One chair lies on its side in the back. Nothing wild, nothing broken beyond repair. But every little detail hums with the same quiet note. Tension. A coil waiting to spring. You stop near the center of the room. Let the silence settle again. "Where is he?" you ask. Voice even, low. No one answers right away. Then the bartender clears his throat. "Upstairs," he says. Just that. No name, no reason. But you understand. You nod once, no one follows you as you turn toward the stairs. The wood under your boots feels softer than usual, like the building's holding its breath. You grip the railing, old and splintered, and start up. One step at a time. The second floor is even quieter. A hallway of closed doors, all pretending to be empty. You walk until you reach the last one, where the air smells faintly of sweat and oil. You don't knock, just open the door and let it swing. The man inside turns his head, slow and deliberate. He's sitting on the edge of the bed, boot halfway on, a pistol on the table beside him. You've never seen him before, but you know him. Not the face, the type. Heavy coat despite the heat. Clean hands but calloused fingers. He's not here for the view. He nods once, not polite, not hostile, just acknowledging the inevitable. You say nothing. Let the moment stretch. He doesn't reach for the gun. You don't draw yours. But the space between those two actions is the only reason this room hasn't already bled. He stands slowly. Tall, not young, the kind of man who's done this before. Maybe more than once. Maybe yesterday. You look him in the eye, and for a second, nothing exists but the question neither of you says. Today or not today? Then he shrugs, picks up the pistol, holsters it, walks past you like this isn't finished, just paused. You let him go. Not because it's right, just because it's not time yet. And you already know, the silence downstairs won't last long. You hear the horses before you see the men. Hooves against dry dirt, slow and deliberate. Not rushing in, but not pausing either. The rhythm is wrong for townsfolk. Too measured, too heavy. You step back out into the street and lean against the post. Not out of laziness, but to get your eyes to the edge of town before anyone else. 3 riders. No dust trail. The ground's too dry. The pace too slow. They aren't in a hurry, and that says more than if they were. Their clothes are coated in travel. Not clean dust. Not the kind that settles after a short ride. But thick, baked-in grime that speaks of days in the saddle and nights without fire. You watch their faces as they get closer. None of them speak. One squints against the sun, but none flinch. Their eyes are narrow, steady, scanning. Not curious, not cautious, calculating. The kind of look that doesn't ask permission, doesn't need to. They don't head for the livery. They don't stop at the trough. They ride straight down the main street, past the general store, past the smithy, and slow only when they're nearly in front of the saloon. You haven't moved, and they haven't looked directly at you. Not yet. But they know you're watching, and you know they want you to. There's a silence that follows them, like the buildings are holding their breath. A dog slinks under a porch. A door closes softly somewhere behind you. The lead rider finally pulls on the reins, his horse tossing its head once before stilling. He doesn't dismount. None of them do. They just sit there, horses twitching under the weight of the sun and silence. The second man spits. The third adjusts something under his coat. You take a step forward. Not much. Just enough to let the town know you're not backing away. Your hand rests near your belt. Casual. Familiar. Empty for now. The first rider turns his head slowly, eyes finally meeting yours. They don't flicker. Don't assess. Just connect. Like two men checking if today is the day. You nod. He doesn't. You've seen that look before. Men like him don't come to towns like this to rest. They come to test something. Boundaries. Nerves. They come to see what breaks. Whether that's a man, a system, or a silence, doesn't matter. The second rider finally swings down off his horse. Not graceful, but confident. He stretches like someone who's been riding too long, then heads for the saloon door without a word. The third stays mounted, eyes hidden under a hat pulled low. He might be young, or not. Hard to tell when a man's face is carved more by travel than time. You don't stop them. Not yet. You just watch. Because if you act too early, you provoke. If you act too late, someone else pays the price. So you hold still and wait for the crack to form. People are watching now. You feel it more than see it. Faces behind curtains, behind cracks in the wall. This town doesn't ask for protection anymore. It just waits to see how bad it'll get. You step forward again, this time enough to make your boots loud on the boards. The sound makes the third rider shift in his saddle, but he doesn't reach. Doesn't speak. You glance once toward the saloon, then back. The lead man follows your gaze, then slides down from his horse. The ground seems to shift slightly when his boots land. Not from weight, but from what that weight might mean. He walks past you without a word, close enough that you catch the sour scent of sweat and something else. Maybe gun oil, maybe old blood. The others follow him in, 2 seconds apart. You're left outside, in the rising heat, with nothing but your hand near your belt and the promise of trouble folding itself into the shadows of the doorway. You stay where you are, spine straight, breath slow. They haven't made a move, not yet. But they didn't come to talk, and you know that much for sure. You stand outside the saloon for a moment longer, the heat starting to settle into your shoulders like a second coat. You know they're inside now, moving slow, letting their presence fill the room like smoke. You take one breath, then another, and step through the doors. The air inside is heavier than before. Not hot, thick. The kind of tension that bends light, makes sound feel slower. The regulars keep their eyes down. A woman behind the bar pretends to clean a bottle that doesn't need it. The 3 riders are spread out just enough to make it clear they've done this before. One at the bar, one near the back wall, and the one in the middle, the one who made eye contact. He's the center of the storm, whether he's moving or not. You step forward, not rushing, not hesitating, just moving like this is something you've done 100 times. Because it is. And it never gets easier. You stop just far enough that he has to look up at you to meet your eyes. You speak quietly. No threats, no badge waving. Just your voice, even and flat. I don't know what you're here for. I don't care where you came from. But you don't stay long, and you don't bring trouble. You pause. Let that settle. You'll finish your drink if you order one. Then you'll ride out the same way you came in, and nothing has to happen. For a second, no one moves. Then the second man, the twitchy one near the back, laughs once, short and sharp. Not from humor, from habit. The leader doesn't laugh, doesn't blink. Just watches you. That all? He asks. His voice is dry, cracked from sun and distance. You nod. That's all. The barmaid sets the bottle down, just a little too fast. He notices. You both do. He leans back slightly in his chair, like he's thinking, but you know he's measuring distance. To the gun on his hip, to the door, to you. You don't reach for your weapon. Not yet. You've learned that moving too early means someone else starts it, but you get blamed. So you stand still. Let him choose. It's always like this. You give them a chance. Just one. Always the same. Not because you think they'll listen, but because if they don't, and it all goes to hell, you need to be able to say you gave them the out, that you did it the right way, that when the blood dries and the room clears and someone asks why, you'll have something to point to. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring anyone back. But it keeps your spine straight. He stands slowly, doesn't reach for anything, doesn't smile, just stands. For a second, you think he might leave. Not because of your words, because of timing, because of math. 3 on 1, but they don't know this town. Don't know how fast you are when it matters. Then something shifts. Maybe it's the way the man near the wall straightens up. Maybe it's the way the ladman's hand drifts too close to his belt. Maybe it's just the sound of your own blood in your ears, whispering that the moment is breaking. You speak again, softer this time. Not a warning. Just a truth. Don't. That's it. Just that. It lands like a stone. You know he heard it. You see it in the way his fingers stop, hover, think better of it. He looks past you for a moment, maybe at the window, maybe at something far beyond this room. Then he nods once, a jerk of the chin. Nothing else. He turns, gestures at the others. We're done, he says. He walks toward the door. You step aside just enough to let him pass, but not enough to turn your back. The other two follow. No eye contact. No words. They step out into the light and onto their horses. A minute later, they're dust and distance. You stay inside a while longer, just to make sure. Then you breathe. And only then. It always starts too fast, even when you see it coming. The lead man had already turned. The others had followed. It should have been done. But as the second rider stepped through the doorway, he stopped. Just long enough. Just still enough. You saw it in the way his shoulders tensed, in the way his left foot shifted half a step too wide. The sun caught something in his hand, something that hadn't been there before. You opened your mouth to say something, but before the sound reached your lips, the gun went off. One shot, that's all. One shot, and everything broke. The glass behind the bar exploded. The woman screamed. Someone ducked. Someone ran. You didn't. You were already moving, already sideways, hand on your weapon, eyes locked on the one who'd fired. But the room had changed. All of it. Like a trap door had opened under everyone's feet and dropped you all into another place, where breath meant nothing and reaction was everything. The rider who fired wasn't aiming. He just shot. Panic or impulse or instinct, you'd never know. The round went wide, cracked through wood, maybe metal. Someone shouted. Another shot rang out, this time from your gun, and you felt it before you heard it. That snap in your wrist. That weight leaving your hand. He staggered back, hit the corner of the doorframe, crumpled to one knee. You moved forward fast, 2 steps, maybe 3, pushing everyone else out of your field of view. The other 2 hadn't drawn. Not yet. But the tension wasn't gone. Not by a long shot. The lead man turned, slow, eyes wide, not with fear, with disbelief. Like even he hadn't expected it to go wrong this fast. You raised your gun again, steady now, trained on him, waiting for that twitch, that reach, that blink too long. The room behind you was chaos. Chairs knocked over, bottles shattered. Someone was crying. You didn't turn. You couldn't. The air smelled like smoke and dust and blood starting to wake. For a few long seconds, no one moved. The one who fired was on the ground, groaning now, clutching his side. Red was soaking into the floorboards fast, and you knew it was bad. You knew it would spread. The other 2 just stared, not at him, not at you, but at the space between. Like they were trying to calculate whether pride or survival weighed more today. You kept your finger loose on the trigger, your stance even. You didn't speak, not anymore. Words had passed. The time for warning had come and gone. It was math now. Angle, distance, willingness, a twitch, and it all starts again. But they didn't twitch. The lead man looked down at the wounded one, then up at you. His jaw tightened. His hands opened slightly, palms visible. That was it. The call. He turned again, slower this time, walked out without a word. The third followed, glancing once at the man on the floor, then vanishing into sunlight. You didn't lower your weapon until the door stopped moving. You stepped toward the man still bleeding. He was conscious, barely, trying to sit up. You kicked the gun away from his reach. Not hard, just far enough. "Stay down," you said, voice low. He didn't answer. Couldn't, maybe. You looked around. The others were starting to move again. Barmaid behind the counter, pressing a cloth to her own shaking hands. A man near the piano with a shallow cut across his temple. A woman helping someone out from under a table. You looked back at the shooter. His breathing was shallow, his shirt soaked. You didn't feel angry. You didn't feel anything. Just the numb weight of a moment that shouldn't have happened and yet always does. You holstered your weapon, stepped outside. The street was still empty, but not unaware. Eyes behind curtains, faces in cracks. They'd heard the shot. They always do. You didn't call for help. Someone would come. Not because they cared, because they had to. You leaned against the wall and exhaled. The town had returned to its rhythm. But it wasn't the same song anymore. The second shot doesn't sound like the first. It's louder, closer. It comes from somewhere behind you, and in that moment, instinct overtakes thought. You spin, draw, fire, not because you see clearly, but because you have to. The room explodes around you. Someone screams, high and sharp. A table crashes sideways, glasses shatter against the floor, and the air fills with smoke and dust and heat. You don't remember aiming. You don't remember choosing a target. You just shoot, once, twice, and duck low as something splinters inches from your head. The saloon's fragile order collapses all at once. Chairs scatter, people run, voices rise into a wall of sound that flattens everything else. You can't hear your own breath anymore. You can't hear your own thoughts. Just the weight of everything collapsing in on itself. The noise too thick to escape. The smoke smells like gunpowder and sweat. The kind that clings to your tongue, settles into your lungs like soot. You move without thinking, toward the sound, toward the flash of motion near the back wall. A shadow breaks left. You follow, stepping over a body, maybe unconscious, maybe dead. You don't look down. Your revolver is hot in your hand, your heart pounding too loud to count beats. You yell something, maybe a warning, maybe just a word to keep yourself grounded, but it's swallowed by the noise. Another shot bounces off the bar. Wood splinters into your sleeve. You drop to one knee, fire twice more into the smoke. A figure stumbles, goes down. The crying has started now, layered beneath the shouts. The saloon is filled with it. Fear, confusion, pain. And still, you don't stop. You push forward, past overturned stools, broken glass biting into your boots. Someone grabs your coat. You shake them off. Your eyes sting. The smoke's everywhere now, rising from broken lamps, from powder-burnt air. The windows glow faintly, the world outside watching but offering no help. You see the shape of someone crawling, unarmed, bleeding, trying to escape. You step past them, deeper in. You're not sure where the others are. You don't know who fired first anymore. It doesn't matter. The world shrank to this room, these breaths, this heat pressing in on every side. Your finger stays near the trigger, your steps soft on the cracked floorboards. You glance toward the piano. A bullet has punched through its side, leaving keys dangling like broken teeth. Another body lies near the back table. No movement. Your stomach tightens, but your pace doesn't change. There's still one more out there. You feel it. Not with certainty. With the kind of weight that swims when you know things end in threes. Then, it's quiet. Not silence, not yet, but a shift. A tremble. Like something running out of momentum. The air starts to settle. People stop screaming. The crying becomes clearer, sharper, more human. You lower your weapons slowly, your eyes still scanning, still sharp. The room is a ruin. The floor wet in places it wasn't before. The smell is stronger now. Copper and smoke and fear baked together. You take one slow breath and step back toward the center, where a chair lies overturned and a man's hat rests in a pool of spilled whiskey and blood. You holster your gun without thinking. Your hands are shaking, but only slightly. You hear someone say your name. You don't answer. Someone else says, "It's over," but you don't believe it yet. You look at the broken mirror behind the bar and see your reflection, barely. A figure coated in dust and noise, a shadow with eyes too tired to blink. You step outside and the daylight hits you like a slap. It's too bright, too clean. You exhale and smell smoke on your own skin. It ends as quickly as it began. One of them drops, the second man, the one who fired first. He's on the floor now, gasping, curled in a shape the body shouldn't hold. His blood spreads outward, thick and slow, soaking into the cracked floorboards like the building itself is tired of staying clean. The other, the young one, the quiet one, he bolts. No warning, no noise, just motion. He slips between chairs, past splintered tables, through a half-shattered window that gives way without a fight. The sound of his boots fades fast, swallowed by dust and distance. You don't follow. You don't shout. You don't even flinch. There's no point. He's gone. Gone the way they always go. Into the wide, dry silence that surrounds this town like a moat. Maybe he'll keep running. Maybe he'll bleed out 10 miles from here alone. Or maybe he'll live long enough to tell someone else not to make the same mistake. But you're not chasing ghosts today. You lower your gun slowly, not out of safety, out of gravity. Your arm aches. Your fingers twitch once, then still. You holster it without looking, the motion practiced, mechanical. Around you, the room is a graveyard of movement. Nothing stirs except the smoke still hanging in the air, drifting like it doesn't know where to settle. One of the tables has caught fire near the edge. Not much, just a smolder, licking at spilled liquor and burned wood. Someone should stamp it out. Maybe you, maybe not. The man still alive on the floor groans once, then falls silent. You look at him. You don't kneel. You don't speak. You just watch the rise and fall of his chest slow to something fragile, something temporary. The saloon creaks under its own weight. Chairs rest sideways. A bottle rolls across the floor, empty, hollow. No one else speaks. No one asks what happens next. They're waiting for you to move, to act, to lead. But you don't. Not because you're unsure, because you're exhausted, because you've done this before. Too many times. And you know that nothing you do now will matter in the way people want it to. There'll be questions. There'll be cleanup. Someone will drag the bodies out, and someone else will wipe the blood with a rag that never really gets clean. Someone will try to remember how it started. Most won't. The names will fade first, then the details. But the sound, that first shot, that always stays. People remember how it felt when the room changed. They carry it with them, even if they pretend not to. You stand in it now, the stillness after. Your boots feel heavier than before. Your shoulders itch with the weight of attention. You can feel their eyes, not curious, not grateful, just waiting. The saloon isn't quiet because it's peaceful. It's quiet because it's stunned. You stay still. You let it be. You let them all sit with what just happened, because running from it now only makes it louder later. Outside, the sun keeps rising. The dust in the air doesn't care about blood. The town doesn't pause to mark the moment. Somewhere a chicken clucks. Somewhere a baby cries. But in here, in this stretch of broken wood and scattered glass, everything holds its breath. You finally move. One step toward the man still breathing, just to confirm he won't be for long. His eyes flutter once but don't open. You don't speak to him. You don't offer comfort. It wouldn't be honest, and it wouldn't be heard. You turn toward the door. The way the floor creaks under your boots sounds like thunder in a place that's already full of echoes. No one stops you. No one says your name. You don't look back. You push the door open, step into the light. The air outside is dry and flat and endless. The boy who ran is gone. The man who fell is dying. The day continues. You don't chase. You don't clean. You just breathe and wait for whatever comes next. The doctor shows up when it's already quiet. You don't know who sent for him. You didn't. Maybe the bartender. Maybe someone who wanted to feel like they helped. Maybe no one at all. Maybe he just heard the shots, counted them, and decided to wait until the noise stopped. That's what he does these days. Waits, doesn't run, doesn't ask. He walks into the saloon like he's arriving for a meal that's gone cold. Hat in hand, bag swinging low from one shoulder, eyes already scanning the corners of the room before his boots have even stopped moving. You don't say anything. He doesn't either. He knows where the bodies usually land. He kneels beside the one who's still breathing. Barely. The man groans, and the doctor tilts his head. Not out of sympathy. Out of habit. He opens his bag slowly, like there's no rush. Because there isn't. Not anymore. Not for this one. You watch as he unwraps a stained cloth, checks the wound. His face doesn't change. Just a flicker of something behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. He's seen this kind of hole before, knows what it means. He presses his fingers to the side of the man's neck, nods once to no one. Then he sits back on his heels, lets out a slow breath, and wipes his hands on a towel that was dirty long before today. He won't make it, he says finally. You nod, even though he wasn't speaking to you. Maybe he was. Maybe he always is. He glances at you now, not accusing, not surprised, but knowing. Like this was always going to end this way. Like he could have told you if you'd asked an hour earlier. You hold his gaze just long enough to let him feel the weight of it. You don't apologize. You don't explain. You don't need to. He already knows who pulled the trigger. The others begin to shuffle out now, one by one. Quiet, slow, like they're trying not to wake something. A man carries a chair upright. Another rights a table, though he doesn't sit. The barmaid begins to sweep glass into a small, tired pile. You step aside as the doctor starts packing his things. The wounded man's breathing is thin, wet. There's no urgency. No one shouts for help. No one rushes. Even the dying man seems to understand the rhythm now. The doctor closes his bag and stands. His knees crack, but he doesn't flinch. You can feel the judgment in the air, but it's not sharp. It's soft, like dust settling, like blame that doesn't need to be spoken aloud. You walk with him to the door. He pauses before leaving. You could have waited, he says. Not loud, not bitter. Just a statement. You don't answer, because he's wrong, and because he's right. He steps outside. You stay behind. The man on the floor twitches once, then goes still. You don't check. You already know. The barmaid stops sweeping. She looks at you, then back at the blood. The piano stays silent, one key cracked and dangling from earlier. The saloon smells like sweat and wood smoke and metal. You exhale through your nose and rub the back of your neck, as if that might shake something loose. But nothing changes. The day presses on. Outside, the town resumes its quiet shuffle. A horse passes in the distance. A door slams. And life continues, like it always does. Like death didn't just sit down for a drink and leave the glass half full. You finally step out onto the porch. The sun is higher now. Too bright. Too hot. You squint against it, then pull the door shut behind you. It doesn't close all the way. The hinge has been off for years. You leave it like that. No one fixes what everyone already expects to break again. You step down from the saloon porch and into the light, but it doesn't feel like stepping out. It feels like stepping into something else entirely, thicker than the air, heavier than the dust. The town is quiet, but not still. People have come out now, slowly, carefully, like animals testing the edge of a storm that hasn't passed. They don't speak. They don't gather. They just appear, one by one in doorways and windows, behind wagons and fence posts. Their eyes following you with that specific kind of stillness that says everything without making a sound. You adjust your hat against the sun. It does nothing for the weight pressing against your ribs. You feel their eyes on your back as you walk, not with curiosity, not even with fear. It's something colder, something familiar. You've felt it before. That look, that quiet, that judgment. You try not to meet their eyes, but some stares catch you anyway, like hooks in your skin. You keep moving. You pass by the store first. The shopkeeper's wife stands at the window, her arms crossed tight, her face pale beneath her bonnet. She doesn't blink. Her mouth doesn't move. But the weight in her gaze is worse than words. You nod, not out of politeness, but because your body's been trained to respond to presence. She doesn't nod back. Her look doesn't soften. Behind her, a child peers out and quickly ducks away. You move on. Farther down, two men lean on a post like they've been waiting for something to do all morning. One mutters something as you pass. You don't catch it. You don't want to. His companion doesn't speak at all, just watches you the way a man watches a snake, not afraid of the fangs, but of the reason they might strike. You step over a crack in the boardwalk. Your boot scuffs louder than you meant. Every little sound feels like proof you're still here, still armed, still breathing. You reach the edge of the square and see her standing near the church. You don't know her name, but you know her face. She was with the one who didn't get up, the one still lying on the floor of the saloon, even if his blood has started to dry. She doesn't cry. She doesn't move. She just stares at you, arms at her sides, like gravity is the only thing keeping her from falling apart. And her eyes, they're the worst. Not wide with shock, not red from weeping, just steady. Dead steady. Like she's already decided who did this and doesn't need to hear the story. And in a way, she's right. You didn't start it, but you ended it. And that makes all the difference, even if it doesn't make any. You stand still for a second too long, long enough to feel your pulse in your throat, long enough for your own breath to betray you. Then you tip your hat, not out of respect, not out of guilt. Just because you don't know what else to do, she doesn't respond. No one does. You turn away and walk back toward your office. The street feels longer than before. Every step louder. Every face colder. No one thanks you. No one says your name. And that's when you know it's over. Not the fight. Not the cleanup. But the illusion. The one where you thought that doing your job meant doing good. That stopping violence meant something more than just more silence in the end. They don't see a man who kept the peace, they font. They see a man who brought death into a room and walked out without bleeding. And maybe they're right. You don't argue. You don't explain. You reach the door to your office and pause, hand on the frame, fingers twitching like they remember something your head won't admit. You push the door open, step inside, and close it behind you. Not to rest, not to hide. Just to be somewhere they can't look at you like that anymore, at least not until tomorrow. The office doesn't feel quieter, just smaller. You sit behind the desk and stare at the door, waiting for the knock you know is coming. It always does, eventually. You don't even take your hat off. The sun outside is still strong, still burning the dust into the windowsill, but it doesn't reach you here. The revolver's already back in the drawer, but your hand still rests near it out of habit, not caution. Then the knock comes. 2 short raps, hesitant, like the knuckles behind them aren't convinced they want the conversation to happen. You already know who it is. Only one man in town knocks like that. You tell him to come in. The door opens halfway, then all the way, and there he is, Judge Alton, or whatever's left of the title. Gray suit, never pressed. Tie half loose, sweat already under his arms. He steps in like the floor might give out. Like he's never sure the room is truly empty before he enters. He doesn't sit. He never does. Just stands near the window and fidgets with a folded handkerchief, blinking too often for it to be dust. He clears his throat, doesn't meet your eyes, and starts talking before you ask. There's been concern, he says, as if he hadn't waited a full hour after the shooting to show up. People are nervous, and the paperwork, there's a protocol. You know how it is. You don't answer. He shifts his weight from one foot to the other. I'll need a statement, names, sequence of events. His voice trails off like he's hoping you'll interrupt. You don't. So he keeps going. This sort of thing reflects badly, you understand. Outsiders shot. Questions asked. There's a form. You finally look up. He flinches slightly, but doesn't back away. I'll write it, you say. Later. He nods quickly, like he's been granted mercy. Then he starts in again. But it can't just be violence. We need order. People need to believe someone's in charge. You almost laugh. Almost. But it would be wasted breath. He doesn't believe that. Not really. He hasn't stepped foot near a real fight in years. The only thing he draws are lines on paper and shallow breaths in courtrooms no one visits anymore. You've seen him hesitate outside the saloon, pretending to scan for someone in the distance so he doesn't have to step inside. He avoids looking directly at the jailhouse when someone's locked up. And when there's blood, he walks slower. Like if he stalls long enough, someone else will clean it first. You don't blame him. You just don't respect him either. But he outranks you. On paper, his signature matters, not yours. So you let him say what he needs to say, about proper channels, about precedent, about perception. Words that don't stop bullets, don't carry bodies, don't hold a room still when 3 men walk in with something to prove. He finishes eventually, some muttered closing about decorum and duty. You nod once. That's all he came for. He leaves like he entered, soft and unsure, the door clicking shut without weight. You sit there for a while longer, the heat finally catching up with the stillness. A fly buzzes near the lamp. You swat at it, miss, and don't try again. Your boots feel heavier than they did this morning. You pull the blank report form from the drawer, look at it, and then slide it under a stack of papers. It'll get written. But not now. Not while the words are still raw, still hot. Not while the town still looks at you like the bullet came from your name. You lean back in the chair and close your eyes. Judge Alton will put his name at the bottom of whatever you hand him. He always does, because it saves him from having to decide anything himself. That's how it works. You carry the blood. He carries the stamp. You answer to a man nobody respects, and somehow that still means you're not the one in charge. She's standing on the porch before you reach the edge of the square. You spot her from a distance, motionless, framed by the doorway like something carved into the structure itself. Her hands rest at her sides, her back straight, her face turned slightly into the wind. The bonnet hides most of her hair, but you recognize her. Not by name, you never learned it, but by association. She was with the man who bled out on the saloon floor. Maybe his wife, maybe not. Doesn't matter now. What matters is that she's there, still, waiting, not pacing, not rocking, just existing in the absence of someone who no longer does. You slow your steps without meaning to. You're not sure what you plan to say. Maybe nothing. Maybe just a nod. But as you get closer, the space between you sharpens. Not distance, but something harder to measure. Like silence pressed into form. She doesn't speak when you arrive. Doesn't gesture or flinch. Her eyes settle on you. Not wide, not red, not wet. Just steady. The kind of look that doesn't need permission to accuse. You take off your hat, though it feels wrong to do it. Formality here feels useless, like manners at a funeral no one wanted to attend. You glance at the boards beneath your boots. They creak, soft and weak under your weight, and the sound fills the space between you with something brittle. You meet her eyes again and try to hold it. She doesn't look away. You realize in that moment that she isn't waiting for an explanation. She already has one. In her mind, there are no moving parts left to arrange, no unknowns to account for. He's dead. You're alive. The lines between those facts are irrelevant. You think of all the things you could say. That he drew first, that you warned them, that you gave them a chance, but her face makes it clear. None of that would matter. You don't ask if she needs anything. You don't offer help. It would only make it worse. She doesn't want your hands, your words, your pity. She wants him back. And failing that, she wants silence. She wants stillness. And so you give it. You stand there for a long moment, hat in hand, throat tight from heat and smoke and the things you never let out. Her expression doesn't shift. Not once. No tears. No trembling. That's the part that stays with you. The quiet. The weight of it. Like grief poured into concrete. Like mourning with its back straight. You've seen rage. You've seen collapse, but this is something deeper. Something older. The kind of pain that knows how to hold itself upright, because it's done it before. You nod once, slow and shallow. She doesn't return it. Just turns. Slow, mechanical, and steps back inside. The screen door swings, creaks, closes. You stand alone again, the wind pushing faintly at your coat. Somewhere behind you, a nail comes loose in a board and ticks once against a window pane. Life, resuming. You place the hat back on your head, but it doesn't feel like it fits right. Nothing does now. You turn from the porch and walk back toward the road. No one else is outside. Or maybe they are, just not where you can see them. The town feels thin, stretched, as if too many things have been pulled out of it too quickly. You try to shake the heaviness from your chest, but it stays. Follows you like your shadow. You know she'll remember your face. Not as a lawman, not even as a man. Just as the reason something she loved isn't here anymore. And the worst part is knowing she won't be the last. That this day, this moment, will repeat. Different name, different body. But the same porch. The same silence, the same eyes that say, without ever speaking, that you pulled the trigger, whether you did or not. You sit at your desk with your hands folded in front of you, staring at nothing in particular. The light through the window hits the wall in a crooked line, cutting through dust that never settles for long. The town is quiet again, at least for now. But the quiet doesn't bring peace. It just leaves space for thoughts you don't want. You look at your badge lying on the table, not pinned to your chest, not polished. Just there. A piece of tin that once felt heavier, once meant something. You try to remember what it was, that feeling you had the day you first put it on. Not pride. That came later. Or maybe never. But something like hope. The idea that you could make things better, straighter. That maybe law was something you could hold on to, like a rope in a storm. You stare at the badge a long time. It doesn't answer you. It never does. The room smells like sweat, ink, and old wood. The ledger lies open beside you. Blank page. Plenty of room to write something down, if you had something worth putting there. You glance at the entries before it. Names, dates, times. Offenses that barely count anymore. A fight over a fence line. A stolen chicken. A man too drunk to remember his own name. Then, more recent ones. Shootings, injuries, bodies. Each line shorter than the one before, like you're trying to say less about more. You used to write more carefully. Now it's just marks. Evidence that something happened, even if no one remembers what. You lean back in your chair and close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to breathe. You think about the first time someone called you sheriff, how it sounded in their mouth, like respect, like recognition. Now it sounds more like warning, a word that tells people to step aside, not come closer. You open your eyes again. The light on the wall has moved. The dust hasn't. You wonder sometimes when it shifted, when keeping the peace became holding your breath. When right and wrong blurred into fast and slow, quiet and loud. You used to walk into rooms thinking you could change something. Now you just hope no one draws first. You used to ask questions. Now you look for exits. You try to remember the last time you smiled in uniform. Not that you were ever much for smiling, but there was a time it came easier. A time when you believed people might actually want order, want safety. Now they just want space, want to be left alone, want you to show up when it suits them and disappear when it doesn't. And you've adapted, without even knowing it. You've become what they needed, a shape, a shadow, a threat, but never a man. Not really. Not one they could talk to, not one you'd want to be. You rub your temples and feel the tension caught behind your eyes. It's always there now, like something clenched that never unclenches. You look around the office. The walls are bare, except for the old map pinned in the corner. Town boundaries drawn in red ink that's faded into brown. You trace them with your eyes, those same lines you thought you could protect. Like they meant something. Like you could stop the wrong things from crossing over. Now those lines feel like decorations. The real boundaries are elsewhere. In eyes, in stares. In how long someone pauses before saying your name. You push back your chair and stand slowly. The floor creaks beneath your weight. You walk to the door, open it, and stare out at the empty street. A wind moves through it, but nothing else. You lean on the frame and try to remember why you said yes, why you stayed, why you thought this mattered. You search your memory for a reason, a promise, a belief, a moment, and come up with nothing but noise. You exhale. Not because it helps, but because it's the only thing left you know how to do. They've been in the drawer for years now. Folded, creased, curled at the edges from time and neglect. A stack of envelopes tied with a strip of worn cloth, tucked beneath the ammunition box, and the dull silver badge you stopped wearing on your chest. You find them again without meaning to, reaching for something else, brushing the corner of that old bundle, like touching a memory through cloth. You pull them out, set them on the desk, and look at them like they might suddenly speak. Same handwriting on each. Slanted, narrow, precise. Someone who took time with words. Someone who thought you'd do the same. You don't count how many there are. Doesn't matter. More than one. Less than enough. You run your thumb over the top one. Feel the texture of a life you left behind, or maybe just drifted from until it disappeared. You don't open it. You never did. And now, you're not sure if you can. You don't remember when the first one arrived. Might have been right after you took the job. Might have been before. It came with a rider, or in someone else's satchel, handed to you with a nod and no comment. At the time, you meant to read it. You really did. You placed it carefully beside the ledger, thinking it would be easier later, after things calmed down. But they never did. The second letter came with fewer questions and a smaller envelope. The third was marked urgent, but you never found out why. One of them, you can't tell which anymore, has a faint stain on the back. Water, maybe, or something else. The ink has bled just slightly, a slow unraveling of someone's effort. You wonder what was in them. News of a death, a birth, a brother's injury, a mother's prayer. You wonder how long they waited for a reply. You wonder when they stopped waiting. You told yourself once that it was kindness not to answer, that distance was safety, that silence was mercy. You believed it for a while, or tried to. But now, with the town gone still and the echo of gunfire still clinging to the saloon walls, you're not so sure. You think of what it must have taken to write them, to sit down, hold a pen, choose words, fold paper, seal it, send it, believe it might matter. You think of hands you haven't seen in years, of rooms that smelled like soap and warmth and bread cooling on a shelf, of voices that once said your name without hesitation, without weight. The letters are light in your hand, but they pull something heavier from you. Something you'd kept buried under tasks, routines, dust. You should have read them. You know that now. But knowing changes nothing. The words are still sealed. The people behind them still far. And you're still here, holding silence like it's all you ever deserved. You place them back in the drawer, Not roughly, not gently, just carefully enough, like they might still feel it. You close the drawer and rest your hand on the top, letting the wood cool your palm. You don't cry. You don't speak. You don't ask for forgiveness. That would be too easy, too selfish. Instead, you return to your chair, lean back, and let your eyes fall to the empty ledger page again. You think about writing something, not a report, not a statement, just a sentence. But your hand doesn't move. The pen stays dry. Outside, the wind shifts, brushes dust across the porch, rattles a loose shutter somewhere down the street. You sit with the weight of unopened words beside you, knowing they'll stay that way. Not because you don't care, but because now it wouldn't matter. The people who wrote them are either gone or changed, and you're not the man they were writing to anymore. Maybe you never were. The door's been sagging for weeks, maybe longer. Each time you open it, it catches at the bottom corner, dragging just enough to remind you it's still breaking. Today, it finally sticks halfway open, groaning like something alive. You try to push it shut again, but it jerks against the frame, off-kilter, warped by sun and time and weather no one remembers to track. You stand there a moment, one hand on the edge feeling the rough grain of the wood where it's splintered. It's not urgent. No one's complained. But it's yours. Your door. Your office. And if it falls off the hinge or warps beyond saving, no one else will fix it. Not the men who lean on posts all day. Not the judge with his paperwork. Not the boy who watches you from alleyways, copying your walk. Just you. So you step back inside, walk to the corner near the stove, and pull out the small wooden crate that holds what little you call tools. The hammer's handle is worn smooth, blackened from years of palms like yours. The nails inside the tin rattle together like teeth. You take what you need without counting. There's no ritual to it, just motion, just getting it done. You grab the chisel, the wrench, the rusted screwdriver, and carry them out one by one. The afternoon sun slices through the street like a blade. You squat beside the hinges, coat brushing against the dust, and start working. First, the bottom pin. You knock it loose with slow taps, careful not to crack the wood further. The creak is sharp, metal on metal, a sound that used to mean something in your bones. Now it just sounds familiar. You pull the hinge plate away, set it on the step, and dig through the crate for a replacement. You don't have one. Of course you don't. So you clean the old piece instead, scrape the rust with the screwdriver, oil it from the bottle with no label. You've done this before. Behind you, the town carries on. A wagon creaks by without slowing. A voice calls out, maybe 2 streets over, something about a fence or a horse or a child. You don't look up. You focus on the hinge. You hold it in place, brace the wood with your knee, and hammer in the first nail. The strike echoes louder than expected, a hollow clank that scatters a nearby bird from the eaves. You pause, wait for silence to return, then strike again, and again. The nail bends. You curse under your breath, pull it free, and start over. This is what you do now. Fix things that were never meant to last this long. Patch holes. Replace what should have been rebuilt. You aren't a builder, you aren't a carpenter. But if you don't do it, no one will. You realign the frame, drive in the second nail, test the swing. Still off, you mutter, adjust, hammer again. Sweat rolls down your back, but you don't stop. You never do. When it finally sits straight, you step back and wipe your hands on your pants. The job's not perfect. The door still groans, just not as loud. It closes now. That's enough. That's all anything is around here. Enough for now. You gather the tools, one by one, and place them back in the crate. You don't clean them. You don't have the time or the will. They'll be used again soon enough. The crate goes back by the stove, the nails back in the tin. You sit down at your desk again and listen to the new rhythm of the hinges as the door swings once in the wind, then clicks softly back into place. No one thanks you. No one noticed. But the sound is right now. And in this town, that's something. You lean back, close your eyes for a breath, and wonder how many things you've fixed just well enough to break again. Probably everything. Probably yourself. You don't write it down, you just let the silence settle back in and wait for the next thing that needs fixing. The sun drops behind the far ridge like it always does, slowly, without apology, dragging the heat with it and leaving behind the kind of quiet that never lasts. You hear it before you see it. First, a voice too loud for conversation. Then the clatter of boots on wooden steps, a chair scraping across a saloon floor, a bottle being set down too hard. It's always the same pattern, the same rhythm, like the town is rehearsing a script no one remembers writing. You sit on the porch of your office, hat tilted low, arms crossed, and listen as the evening starts to unravel. It doesn't take long. Laughter, sharp and mean. A woman's voice, not angry, just tired. The sound of someone spitting into the dust. These are your people, your hours. This is when things slip. Not because of evil, just weariness, just repetition, just the same old habits settling back in now that the sun can't see them. The saloon doors never actually close. They just swing, creak, flap in the breeze like the breath of something too stubborn to die. You stand slowly, joints aching in familiar places, and walk toward the noise. Your boots make no sound against the packed dirt. You don't rush. There's no point. Nothing urgent happens at this hour. Just the build-up to something that might be. Inside, the lamps have been lit, casting that warm yellow glow that hides the stains. A piano plays half a song before breaking into discord. No one notices or cares. The usual faces are there. Cobb slouched against the bar, one arm around nobody in particular. Billy, eyes heavy but scanning the room anyway. Martha with her fake smile and her real scars, pouring whiskey with a limp wrist and no patience. You nod at her. She doesn't nod back. You didn't expect her to. It's loud in the wrong way. Not joyful, just big. A kind of performance as if they're all trying to drown out something only they can hear. Regret, maybe, or boredom, or both. You lean against the doorframe, arms folded, watching. You're not here to stop anything, not unless you have to. You're just presence, a shape in the room, a shadow with a badge and a gun and the memory of consequences. The laughter softens slightly when people notice you, but it doesn't stop. They know your patterns too. They know when you care and when you don't. Someone tries to start a card game. Someone else protests. A stool topples. You wait, count to 10, then 15. Nothing escalates. This time. You step inside, tip your hat to no one in particular, and take a seat at the far corner table, the one with the view of both exits and no backrest. Your seat always was. You order nothing, you speak to no one. And still, everyone knows why you're here. You're here because you have to be. Because this is the hour when men forget their debts, their promises, and sometimes their names. This is when guns get unholstered not for justice but for pride. This is when people remember what they lost, or what they think they deserve, and try to take it from someone else. You're not angry, just tired. You watch them drink and laugh and pretend. The same old sins in the same old room. A town that drinks itself into blindness every night and wakes up surprised at the mess. You shift your weight, feel the wood creak beneath you, and glance once more at the bar. Nothing yet. But it's early. Evening only just began, and the worst of it always waits for the dark. You sigh, not loud, and settle in. This is your peace, a seat, a corner, a night full of noise that might turn into violence. It always might. It always starts the same way. A man leans too far over the table, throws down a hand of cards like he's tossing blame. Another stands too quickly, chair scraping the floor, words sharp and slurred. They rise together like old enemies who only just remembered. You don't need to hear the words. You already know them. Accusations, lies, pride wrapped in whiskey. You stand from your seat in the corner before the shouting begins. You don't hurry. You've done this too many times. Your boots hit the floor with a sound that some folks recognize and some still ignore. By the time you reach them, the tables tipped, the cards scattered, one man red-faced, the other already reaching under his coat. You place your hand on your gun, not to draw, not yet. Just a gesture, a reminder. You don't speak loud. You don't threaten. You just say their names, one at a time, flat and clear. That's usually enough. Usually. Tonight it isn't. The drunk on the left, you've known him for years, spits on the floor between you, eyes glassy and defiant. He doesn't care what happens next. He's hoping you'll hit him. The other one, younger and quieter, mutters something that might be a threat or might be nothing. Either way, he's not going to back down first. You step between them, close enough to smell the sweat, the rot in their teeth, the bad tobacco. Close enough that if one of them moves wrong, you won't have time to aim, only act. But you've been here before. You place your hand on the drunk's chest and push, not hard, just steady. He stumbles back a step, swears, but doesn't resist. The younger one follows, mumbling as he goes. You guide them toward the doors with slow steps and heavy silence. Eyes follow you across the room, but no one offers help. No one ever does. This is your role. You break it up. You carry the weight. Outside, the air's cooler, quieter. You point down the street. They don't argue. Not out loud. But their eyes say everything. The old one glares, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, and mutters something about cowards and badges. The young one lights a match with shaking fingers, then lets it burn down without touching his cigarette. You watch them go. They'll be back tomorrow or the next day. Maybe with blood on their shirts, maybe with apologies. It never sticks. You turn to re-enter the saloon, but pause. For a moment, you wonder what it would be like to just let them finish what they started. Let them fight it out. Let someone else clean the floor. But you don't. You never do. You go back inside. The music has stopped. The noise quieted. You nod once to Martha behind the bar, then return to your chair. The room exhales. The evening continues. There's no triumph in it, no praise, just nods that don't reach the eyes and silence that feels heavier than noise. You've done your job, again, and it changed nothing. The chairs are reset, the cards reshuffled. The piano starts up again with a clumsy tune no one listens to. You sit back down, the wood still warm from earlier, and stretch your legs under the table. This was never about justice. Not really. It's routine. A performance everyone expects. You break it up. They go home. They come back. And in between, nothing gets better. Nothing heals. You adjust your belt, feel the weight of your guns like a second spine, and lean back against the wall. Outside, footsteps fade into distance. Inside, everything resets. The saloon breathes again. Shallow, familiar, tired. You close your eyes for just a second, then open them. The night isn't over, and you're not done. You find yourself standing at the edge of town, just past the livery, where the dirt road stretches west like a dry river. It's quiet out here, the kind of quiet that feels like it's waiting. The sun's gone behind the ridge, painting everything in rust and ash. You lean against the hitch rail, arms folded, eyes fixed on the horizon. The same one you've looked at for years. Same dirt, same sagebrush, same fading light. But tonight, it looks different. It looks open. Like maybe, just maybe, you could ride that road and not come back. You imagine the sound of your horse's hooves falling into rhythm, the creak of your saddle, the wind against your face instead of the breath of drunks in the saloon. And for the first time in months, the thought doesn't feel like failure. It feels like something else. Not escape, not surrender, just a new shape for your shadow. You go over the details in your head. How long it would take to pack the essentials. What you'd leave behind. Whether anyone would notice. The badge? That's easy. You'd leave it on the desk, right next to the register where nobody signs their name anymore. Your gun? That's harder. Not because of sentiment, there is none left, but because you've lived too long without trust. Riding out without a gun would be like stepping into a storm naked. You think about leaving a note, but what would it say? Sorry? Good luck? Nothing feels honest. Nothing feels worth ink. You shift your weight and glance back at the town. One lantern's lit in the saloon. A shape moves behind the curtains. You know these people. Know their voices, their habits, their secrets. You've buried some of them, shot others, held children when they screamed, watched couples become widows, and they've watched you become something you didn't mean to be. There was a time you believed in the work, believed you could make a difference. That being the sheriff meant something more than wearing the badge and waking up early. You used to write down every report, clean every cell, speak like every word might matter. You patrolled because it was the right thing, not just the expected thing. But now, the paperwork piles up untouched. The keys to the jail sit cold on your belt. The laws come in telegrams that no one reads, written by men in cities who've never felt the desert heat. What you do now is closer to habit than duty. You break up fights. You bury the dead. You keep the peace with fear, not respect. And you wonder, more often than not, if any of it matters. If they even want law, or just someone to blame when things go wrong. And you're always there, ready to be blamed. You look west again. The sky's darker now, stars beginning to blink through the dusk. Somewhere out there are towns you've never seen. Maybe places with green hills, rain, even trees. Maybe just more of the same. But that's the risk, isn't it? You take the saddle, and you trade certainty for air. Maybe there's a ranch looking for a hand. Maybe a river town where nobody knows your name. Maybe nowhere. You think about the boots you'd leave behind, the floorboards that creak when you walk, the chair that knows your weight, the face in the mirror that stopped surprising you long ago, but still, something stirs. A whisper beneath your ribs. Not loud, not urgent, just steady, like the idea was always there, waiting for the right day. And maybe tonight is that day. Or maybe it isn't. But your horse is fed. The road is empty. And for the first time in too long, you don't feel like staying. You hear it before you see him. A knock, soft as a cough, barely more than the creak of the wind pushing against the warped wooden door. You pause, thinking maybe it was nothing. But then it comes again. 3 quiet taps, uneven and nervous. When you open the door, he's standing there barefoot, maybe 6 years old, clutching a torn blanket and breathing like he's forgotten how. Dirt on his cheeks, one eye swollen, and something sticky on his shirt that might be blood or just jam. You crouch, your knees cracking as you come down to his height. His lips tremble, and when he finally speaks, the words come like a whisper fighting its way through smoke. "Sheriff, please, you gotta come. Papa's not moving." His hand tugs at your sleeve, his grip small but urgent. You grab your hat, nod once and follow. No time to saddle the horse, just your boots in the dust, and the boy leading the way like a ghost on a string. The house is on the edge of town, past the dry creek bed, where the brush starts to look like wilderness. A crooked shack leaning on itself, with smoke still curling from the chimney, even though it's well past sundown. You push the door open gently, and the hinges protest. Inside it smells of old wood, spilled whiskey, and unwashed fear. The light is low, one oil lamp flickering on the table, casting tall shadows on the walls. His father is slumped in a chair near the stove, his chest still, his boots still laced, one hand hanging useless over the side. His head's tilted too far back, his neck bent at the wrong angle. You cross the room in 3 steps and press your fingers to the man's throat. No pulse. Still warm, but that doesn't matter. His eyes are glass, his mouth half open. The boy stands behind you, staring, waiting for something he doesn't understand. You kneel slowly, take off your hat, and set it on the floor beside you. You look around the room for clues, for something to blame. There's no blood, no sign of struggle, just the heavy presence of something that's left. A bottle sits on the floor, tipped over but nearly full. You sniff it, cheap rye. His revolver's still holstered on the wall hook. No powder burns, no smell of smoke. You kneel and gently roll up his sleeve. There's a bruise near the elbow, dark and too clean. You recognize it. You've seen it before. Not a fight, not a fall. It's sickness. Something inside gave out. Heart, lungs, maybe liver. Doesn't matter. He was alone, and when he stopped breathing, nobody noticed, except the boy. You rise slowly and look him in the eyes. "What's your name?" you ask. He tells you, between hiccups and sniffling. You nod. "He's gone," you say, It's not the words he needs. It's the truth. He stands still, like maybe he didn't hear, or maybe he did. And it's the first real thing he's heard all day. You stay longer than you should. You light the fire again, feed the boy from a tin of beans in the cupboard. You tell him to sit close and wrap his blanket tight. He doesn't cry. Not really. He just sits there, knees pulled to his chest, eyes staring past the wall, like he's waiting for the room to change. You step outside, breathe the cool night air, and look up at the sky. Stars are out, sharp and silent. You think of the road again, the one you almost took, and how it ends in places like this, with knocks on doors and children in doorways. You don't know if you'll send word to his relatives. Don't know if he has any. But you'll bury the father tomorrow. You'll find the preacher. You'll write a name on a pine cross, even if it's spelled wrong. And for tonight, you'll sleep in the chair by the stove, your boots on, your badge heavy on your chest, because someone has to. You're tired, the kind of tired that doesn't lift with rest. Your legs ache, your back pulls with every breath, and your eyes sting from dust and lack of sleep. The boy is asleep now, curled on the cot, wrapped in a blanket that smells of wood smoke and old sweat. The fire you built has settled into coals, casting orange ghosts on the far wall. You stretch your shoulders, feel every knot and bruise, and think, just for a second, of staying. Just until dawn. Just until the ache softens. But you don't. You stand. You gather your hat, your coat, your badge. You check your sidearm without even thinking, fingers brushing the grip like a habit burned into bone. You don't do it for pride or duty or justice. Those words have worn thin. You do it because someone has to. Because when people knock on the door, they expect someone to open it. And tonight, that someone is still you. The town is quiet, but not still. There's always movement in the silence if you listen long enough. A dog barks somewhere behind the general store. A screen door creaks and bangs shut again. A cough, a laugh, a chair scraping on floorboards. All distant, all normal. You walk the main road like you've walked it 100 times before, and maybe 1,000 more to come. Your boots know the dips in the boards, the way the dirt turns near the saloon's front porch. You pass the jailhouse and glance at the door you fixed yourself, the wood still raw where the last bullet chewed through. The bloodstain's gone, but your knuckles remember the hammer, the nails, the silence. You pass the blacksmith's, the church, the undertaker's shop, all asleep now, or pretending to be. Every window you pass holds a life inside, and every one of those lives counts on you to be out here, walking, watching, making sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart before morning. You don't know what you're looking for. Maybe nothing. Maybe something. Trouble mostly, because it always finds you when you stop looking. A shadow too long in the alley. A voice that doesn't match the face. A horse tied where it shouldn't be. The kind of things that other men overlook, but you no longer can. The saloon's light is still burning, and the sound of a piano slips through the wall like breath under a door. You don't go in, not yet. You move past it, scan the stable, the water trough, the hitching posts. All seems quiet, but your gut is tight. Not fear. Never fear. Just that twinge in the ribs that tells you something ain't quite right. You've learned to trust it. Not because it's always correct, but because the one time you ignore it, it'll cost you your life. Or someone else's. And that's heavier to carry. The night deepens. The stars burn a little colder. The wind picks up and brings with it a smell of sage and horses and ash. You pass the telegraph office, and for a second, you pause. You could send a message to someone, to nowhere, to remind yourself you still exist outside this dust. But you don't. You move on. There's always something left undone. Always one more step, one more place to check, one more face to remember. You don't know when you'll stop. Maybe when your legs do. Maybe when the badge falls off your chest. Maybe when nobody knocks anymore. Or when the knocks stop meaning anything. But not tonight. Tonight, you keep walking. Not for glory. Not even for peace. You go because you have to. Because no one else will. Because if you don't, tomorrow morning someone else's child might knock, and there might be no one left to answer. The sound hits first. Sharp, dry, unmistakable. Gunfire. Close. Too close. You're already moving before thought catches up. Boots slamming the ground, hand at your hip. The barn looms ahead, wide open and lit from within, shone by something flickering. Hay, most likely. You smell it next. Singed straw, animal sweat, old wood catching flame. There's yelling, but it's garbled by panic and echoes. Someone's fallen. Someone's still shooting. The door hangs crooked on its hinges as you duck inside. It's chaos. A horse rears in its pen, its eyes wide with fear. Two men are behind a stack of crates, one clutching a wound, the other screaming something you don't hear. A third figure runs through the haze, too fast to aim, too dark to recognize. You don't fire. Not yet. Not until you see. The light's wrong, the air's thick, and you can't afford another body unless you're sure. You move through the barn with your back to the wall, eyes darting, gun steady. The fire's licking up the side of a hay bale now, smoke swirling low like a crawling fog. The wounded man groans and shifts, dragging himself away from the flames. You kick a lantern out of the way before it tips fully, sending it crashing harmlessly against the wall. Your breath is short, sharp, poisoned with dust and smoke. The figure that ran, gone. Slipped through the back or under the stalls, maybe. Doesn't matter. What matters is control. You yell, something loud, hard, final. The way you've said it 100 times before. The barn goes still. The echo hangs longer than it should. And then, slowly, the man hiding behind the crates stands, hands up, breathing like a man who thought he'd already died. You step closer, press the barrel of your revolver against his chest. Not to shoot, but to remind him you're real. This isn't some bar fight. This is your town, your mess to clean. Outside, someone's calling your name. A woman, maybe. You ignore it for now. The man you've disarmed is shaking, his mouth working without words. He's young. They always are. Too young to carry the weight of what just happened. Too old to act like he didn't know better. You cuff him with one hand, lead him out by the collar. The fire's climbing now, and you yell again, this time for water, buckets, anything. A few shapes appear at the edge of the darkness, townsfolk in nightshirts and bare feet, blinking like owls. You toss the boy toward the nearest able body and dive back in. The horse is still trapped. You grab at its reins, talking low and steady. pulling until the animal finally stumbles forward into the open air. Flames bite at your coat as you stagger after it. It kicks free and bolts. You fall to your knees, coughing, then rise again, slower. Always slower than before. When it's over, you're burned. Not badly, but enough to sting. The barn is half gone, half saved. One man is dead, one arrested, one missing. That's the count. And it could have been worse. But it doesn't feel like victory. It never does. You lean against the trough and wipe your face with a sleeve that does more harm than good. Someone claps your back. Someone else says something about bravery. You nod, say nothing, and scan the street. The night isn't quiet anymore, but the noise doesn't comfort you. It's just more things to watch. More pieces waiting to fall apart. You holster your revolver without thinking. You've done this before. You'll do it again. Because the hay always catches fire, the gun always goes off, and no matter how fast you move, it always ends the same. Smoke, blood. A town pretending it's fine until the next shot rings out. The town quiets again, but it's not peace. It's the silence after something breaks. The kind that clings to walls and boots and skin. You stand there, hands dusted with ash and dried blood, not sure whose it is anymore. The dirt beneath your feet is uneven and damp, mixed with sweat and whatever spilled from the bodies you carried. There's a man groaning in the alley, but no one rushes to help him. A child stares from a window, but the curtain is pulled back before you can meet their eyes. The fire's out now. The smoke hangs low, stubborn. People speak, but only in mutters. Nobody says your name. Not this time. You look down at the ground again, your boots half sunk in the same soil you grew up hating. Somewhere deep down, you'd hoped it might feel different by now, that if you just kept pushing, kept holding the line, it would stop ending like this. But it never does. Every time it finishes the same. A man in the dirt, maybe two, maybe more, and you standing over it with nothing left to say. You were faster, maybe just lucky. Doesn't matter. You wipe your hands on your trousers, though they won't come clean. The wind picks up, but it doesn't carry away the stench. It presses it in. You walk a few steps toward the hitching post, but you're not going anywhere. You know that. Your body wants rest, but your mind won't sit still. You replay the scene, frame by frame. Who moved first? Where the bullet landed? Whether you really had a choice. Maybe you didn't. But the thing about doing this long enough is that you stop trusting your own memory. It's easier that way. If you can't be sure, you don't have to feel it. Not all of it. Just enough to keep breathing. Someone calls for you again, low and hesitant. You turn, slow and heavy, and see the blacksmith's boy holding your hat. He must have picked it up after the shooting. You nod, take it, thank him with a gesture more than words. You don't put it on, not yet. It's still warm from the sun, and your scalp is still hot from the fight. You sit instead, not on the porch, not on a chair, just on the edge of the well, where it's cool and out of the way. From here you can see the street, the bodies, the people stepping over what's left. Some are already back to their routines. A broom sweeps the boardwalk. A shutter is repaired. It's like watching a wound close over something still bleeding inside. No one's pretending this didn't happen. They just know it will again. and you'll still be here when it does. You look at your hands again, cracked and dry but steady. That used to mean something. It used to be enough. Just standing firm, doing what had to be done, cleaning up afterward. But now, you're not sure. Not after all the times it ended just like this, with another man down and no answers. You know what they say, that you keep the peace, but you're starting to think all you do is hold it back for a few hours at a time, like a dam made of splinters. The dirt doesn't care who falls in it. It doesn't remember the names. It just holds what you leave behind. And tonight, again, it holds too much. You close your eyes, not to sleep, not even to rest, just to forget what you saw and what you didn't. The sun's gone now. The cold is creeping back in, and still, you sit there in the dirt, like always. You never thought you were a hero, not even at the start. Not when you pinned the tin star to your vest. Not when you said yes to the job no one else would touch, and especially not now. You're just here, still breathing. That's the whole story. Not the lawman in the dime novels, not the avenger in the ballads. Just a man with calloused hands and a worn-out spine dragging his boots through another day that didn't kill him. That's all. The ones who called you brave either died fast or moved away. The ones left know better. They've seen too much. They've seen how many men you've buried, how many you didn't save, how many times you fired first. They don't say it, but they look at you like a shadow. Something necessary, maybe, but not something they want near their children. You understand. You'd do the same. Your hands still shake sometimes, but not from fear, from memory, from exhaustion, from all the things you held together that should have broken. You haven't slept properly in years, not without waking up at every creak, every gust of wind that sounds like hooves or gunfire. You used to joke about it, say it came with the badge. Now you don't bother. There's nothing funny about never knowing whether you'll live to see morning. And when you do, well, that's it. That's the win. Not justice, not peace, just survival. You get up, clean your boots, and try not to limp too much on your left leg. That bullet's still in there somewhere. A reminder. Or maybe a warning. You never got it taken out. Didn't seem worth it. Besides, pain keeps you awake. That's useful. Maybe the most useful thing you've got left. They still come to you, c'est ça? The townsfolk. When something goes wrong. When someone goes missing. When a stranger's eyes stay too long. They knock on your door like it means something. Like you'll make it better. You don't. You just make it stop. That's different. You don't fix things anymore. You just hold them long enough for the rest of them to keep pretending. You've broken up fights, buried drunks, driven out worse men than yourself. You've watched boys become monsters and girls disappear into houses they'll never escape from. And still you breathe. That's the trick. That's the job. Not cleaning up. Just staying alive. And when the smoke clears and the crying stops, there you are again, boots planted, shoulders low, eyes red, breathing. You don't ask for thanks. You don't deserve any. You just wait for the next thing to go wrong. Tonight, like every night, you sit with your back to the wall, hat in your hands, revolver on the table. You don't polish it anymore. You don't need to. It works, that's all. You stare at the walls, at the cracks, at the nail where a picture used to hang. You don't remember what it was. You don't try. There's a glass of water untouched, a coat never worn, a letter never opened. You breathe in, breathe out. Not deep, not easy, just enough. Enough to last the hour, maybe another. The wind whistles outside. Someone's dog barks and then quiets. You listen, not because you're afraid, but because it's habit. The kind of habit that keeps a town like you alive. Not a hero, never was. Just someone too stubborn or too tired to quit. You're still breathing, and for tonight, that's enough. It's dark now, real dark. The kind that seeps through the windows and settles on the floor like dust. You don't light the lamp. You know the room by heart. The edges, the corners, the creak of the chair when you sit down. You place the revolver on the table like a ritual. One you've done so many times you could do it blind. And tonight, you almost do. There's no rush, no reason, no danger waiting outside. Just the silence that comes after a long day. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, only reminds. Reminds you that there's no one else. That the stars outside don't shine for you. That the badge in your pocket is more a habit than a purpose now. You take the cloth, the oil, the little tin case. It begins. You dismantle it carefully, one part at a time. Thumb on the cylinder, finger tracing the worn metal like it's skin. It doesn't gleam anymore, not since the dust took over. But it works. That's all it needs to do. You clean it not because it needs cleaning. It doesn't. But because your hands need something to do, something that reminds them who they are, what they've held, what they've let go. You remember every time it fired, every recoil, every name that followed, not out loud. You don't say names anymore. Saying them makes them real, and that's not something you want. Some men drink, some pray. You clean the gun, it's quieter, and you're not looking for forgiveness. The cloth moves in slow circles, and your thoughts move with it. You remember the first time you held it. Not this one. That was years ago, broken and buried. But the feel, the weight, the way it made you feel like you had control. Like maybe this town wouldn't chew you up. That was a long time ago. Before the faces blurred. Before justice became reaction. Now it's just a piece of metal with a job. And a man with the same. You check the chamber, not because you need to, but because that's what you do. Check, wipe, oil, repeat. Not for the fight. You don't expect one tonight. Or maybe you do, but that's not why you clean. You clean because it reminds you that you're still you. Still that man. Still standing. Still breathing. Still here. You reassemble it slowly. Let the cylinder click back into place. Let the barrel settle in like it never left. You test the weight in your hand, even though you know it by now better than you know your own voice. You don't holster it. You just set it back on the table. There's nothing left to do. No more patrol. No more questions. No more orders barked by men who never bled for this town. Just you. In a room with a gun that doesn't need you, and a silence that does. You sit still a moment longer, eyes half closed, fingers resting on the grip. You're not waiting for trouble. You're not waiting for anything. You cleaned the gun, not for them, not for justice, just to remember who you were, who you are, who you have to be until the light comes back. Thanks for riding along tonight. If the dust hasn't settled in your mind yet, don't worry. It's not meant to. Some stories aren't told to comfort you. They're told so you can feel the weight someone else once carried. Sleep easy if you can. Tomorrow, we'll ride again.